Welcome to extraterrestrial reality. Now that we have the hard, absolute, end-all evidence that proves once and for all that there is an alien presence on this planet, it's time to start worrying about other issues at this point. I know that there's still a lot of people out there. Actually, there's a lot of people in the UFO community who do not accept this, as I've talked about in the previous episode, and as well as there's skeptics out there, debunkers and whatnot, who still won't accept this. But anybody who looks at the evidence that has been assembled here recently by crime scene reconstruction expert Scott Roeder and presented on this channel as well as his YouTube channel, as now other YouTube channels are picking up on this. Anyone who's seen this, his full analysis knows that this is a done deal, that we have the end-all evidence, and now there's no reason to sit around debating with people who don't want to believe it anymore, because it's real. It's absolutely no question about it, real. So the next question is what are the implications of this? And the implications could be pretty bad, actually. I know there's a lot of people out there who believe that these aliens are here on noble purposes. They're here to help mankind and so on and so forth. But based on the research of people like Dr. David M. Jacobs of Temple University, now retired, who's written several books on this. Actually, he wrote 2 books specifically about the alien abduction phenomena and what his conclusions are with regard to its purposes. He has a different view of this. It's an ugly view, actually, and I really wish it weren't. I mean, I don't like it. I don't want it to be true. I really hope it's not. I mean, I actually believe that there are multiple kinds of creatures coming here based on all of the literature. But according to Jacobs, he did not find any of this in his research. All the people that came to him seeking help because they were experiencing missing time, once they were under hypnosis, they pretty much told very similar stories as all the other people who've gotten abducted allegedly over the years. I don't think it's alleged. I think it's absolutely real. I think that there are people who have been getting abducted, and the scenarios seem to be the same all the time. But here's the thing: we have the evidence now, and I know there's even more evidence. I was talking about it last week with regard to this Las Vegas alien incident. We've learned last week that there was someone from Arizona who was watching to the north toward Vegas. This object come down April 30th of 2023, right before midnight. Saw this object come down near Vegas, and then after it disappeared, 2 UFOs showed up and hovered around the sky for at least an hour. So this was reported to a meteorological organization, which I talked about last week. And also, we also found out through News Nation that one of the neighbors to the Kenmore family, the family, of course, that experienced the alien beings in their backyard, a neighbor, when this happened, the TV was blinking out, the lights were blinking out, and the security cameras shut down on this person's house. So it wasn't just the Kenmores, it was a neighbor who also experienced issues with this. So we have all this evidence that keeps compiling. I do not believe that what we see in a lot of the videos is a meteor, based on the reports from the Kenmore family and also the evidence that we see in the backyard. We know now for sure that there are alien creatures there. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again with regard to the evidence that we already have. However, I did, before I move on to the main issue tonight, where do we go from here? What this all means, what the implications are for this. Before I get into that, I just want to let you know that I have found even more evidence by studying that video that shows other things. And I put together, before I even get into the main topic tonight, I want to show you this little presentation that I put together with regard to new evidence that could be found in the video. Actually, some of this evidence, there could be other YouTube channels that talked about this before. In fact, I'm sure of it, but some of it I don't know about. So I'm just going to show you this little clip, a 15-minute clip with regard to this new evidence, and then we'll get into the implications and what it all means. Okay, we're looking at the original video, except this time I have it a different aspect ratio so we could see things a little closer. If you notice right here in the beginning, what they're looking at, they're looking and pointing at this area of the video right here. There's like a lighted square window opening in some of the heavy equipment they have in the backyard. And this is what they're pointing to right before they go back into the backyard. That's what they're looking at. Unfortunately, we don't have still don't have a translation for what they were saying. I wish we did, but so we have to go by just the visuals here of what was happening right before they went into the yard and what they were looking at. There's a being in here if you look really close. Anyhow, it's hard to see, but we're going to just focus on this for a second here. So that's what they're pointing at. They're pointing at this right here, this little, and that's what they're going back. And they're going to go, and then all of a sudden, you'll see it. You can still see the window, but then that window disappears and it's replaced by that being there. So I went back and I did a close-up of that opening scene right before they go back, and I want to share that with you now. So here we go. I zoomed it in and I tried to keep the focus on that little square window, and in the center of that window, there's a moving figure in there, and that's what they're pointing at before they go into the backyard. So here we go. I'm playing to see. You can see right here. There's a figure in there. See, actually, looks like there's some movement in there. Okay, and then the camera moved a little bit, and then I had to reposition. So you can see that window. That's what they're looking at. Now they're going into the backyard to check it out. Okay, I had to pull it back here. You still see the window there, and that's when they stop. And you can still see a little corner of that window. And we're going to go through this frame by frame so you can see what I'm saying here. Now the window should have been right here. Now it's not there anymore. You can't see it. Okay, you cannot see it. But you still there's another little window up here. I'm not sure if there's anything in there or not. I just can't tell. It's really hard to see. But this makes sense. You know, they're pulling back. You don't see that lighted window anymore. I just want to point out something that, if anyone remembers what Angel said, he said that they had lights hovering around their head somehow. And I'm just wondering if that thing that had that light that was floating by its head was outside on the other side of that window, and it looked like it had its head possibly sticking through the window, or it was standing right behind it. That little square opening on the heavy equipment. Okay, and we're going to go through this. You cannot see that square, that window in the background anymore, because it's not there, because the being that was there is I believe is potentially the same one that shows up right in front of them. It's moving at lightning speed to get there. And here it comes. You can see it coming in very slowly. There it is. You can see that little blur there. That's because it ran all the way from that window all the way here. So there, see, you can see it there. It's moving. You can't really tell, but it's something there. There was something there that wasn't there before, and it's hard to see. And then it's going to let it play out here. And they back up. Of course, it's zoomed into the point on this version that you can't see the being beside the fence, but that's not what we're talking about right here. I mean, we could go back and look at that 100 times later. But that looks like that being. If you look at this video really closely, it starts off, you know, I zoomed it in here. You can see this little window area here. The being is standing behind some sort of a window in some of the heavy equipment. There it is. You lose it for a second because the camera moved, but here it is. It's still there. They're about to walk in the yard. And then that thing comes out of there at lightning speed. The window is no longer there. It's no longer visible. See, the window should be right back here somewhere. You cannot see it anymore. Look, I'm going to go through it frame by frame. It's disappeared because it's not there. Instead, there's that thing, whatever was behind the window, apparently ran up that quickly and is almost right in front of them and scares them out of the yard. Whatever it is, you can't really make it out, but it is something. You stand upright and it's moving toward them. So that's what we have there. Now, I just want to point out, of course, another thing. Now, when they get out of the yard, and they're all freaked out and everything, and they're looking around and don't know what to do. And then when they look back in the yard, unfortunately, now that being returned to the place it was before. It's back there behind the heavy equipment. The figure is there, and they see it again. They're noticing it. And then, but then they come out. He talks about it. The father talks about what they just saw. He's describing here. The big eyes, the big head, that's what he's talking about, apparently, because he's making physical motion. But then when they look back into the yard again, right, like when they open the gate, after they open the gate here, I'm just going to pause it real quick. It's really hard to tell, right? But in this area, there's a being that shows its face. And I'm not sure if it's the same kind of being that shows up on the right behind the fence, or this being right here. I think that this being is here, zipped out of there real quick, ran up behind this truck somewhere and scared them out of the yard. That's why they got back out of the yard. And then it went back, that being went back into its place. But meanwhile, there is something down here. And I'm going to show you that in a second here. I'm just going to pull up. I made a close-up of it so we could see. Okay. Yes. Okay. You can see it right there. Okay, I slowed it. I put it in slow motion. I zoomed. They actually, when they open up that gate, they look into the backyard for a few seconds, and that's where I'm zooming it in at when they first open the yard. Then they zoom in, but it's harder to see the creature then. But when they first, after they get chased out of the yard, and then they go back and they open up the gate again and they start filming, you'll see this. Look at, right in here. See right where I'm circling there, right there. You can actually see it moving its head. Whatever it is, it has the big eyes. It looks like it might actually be something else. Could be a different creature. Let me go back again. Looks like it could be a gray, perhaps. I don't know, or maybe I'm wrong. It's just the same kind of creature, but there's something there. You can see there's one eye there. There's one eye there. There's this round head. It's actually moving around. Okay, let me rewind it again here. So there is something. There's more than one being. It looks like there could be could be multiple beings here. So again, look at this thing here, and then if you even look behind it, it looks like there's something moving behind it. Like I have no explanation for that too either. I mean, this thing is definitely here. Is this something here though behind it, or is that one of the lights that's hovering by its head that's just moving along with it? I don't know. But if you go through it, frame by frame, let's go through it frame by frame here. It's hard to really tell, but let's go. I mean, it's already in slow motion. I'm going to go through it slowly so we could see it come into view. For a few seconds there, it seems like it becomes clear. You really can't see it yet, but just watch. There, it's starting to come in. You can see it. You can see its head. It's a little bit blurry here, but as you keep going through it, see that's a still frame, I guess. I put this in slow motion, so it just slowed the frames down. Now let's just play it. Yeah, see, look, it comes into view there. And then meanwhile, what's this behind it? Looks like something might be there right behind it. I don't know. It's very strange, but there is another being there for sure. I mean, I could just say this. Now that we have the evidence of the being by the fence, there's no question about that. We have the evidence of the being by the fence. And we also have the evidence of the movement, the being moving toward them in the background. We could say that it looks like that being there actually originates from behind some. It looks like it was hiding behind some of the heavy equipment. And then when they go back in the yard, it looks like there's also the being that was hiding behind the heavy equipment. Looks like behind that window goes back to its place. And then meanwhile, there's something here too. It's moving, as you can see. Look at that. Very strange. Looks like it moved its head right there. Moved its head right there. And then, of course, there's something else behind it. I'm not sure if that's another being or if it's maybe it's nothing. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I am certain that what we're seeing right here in that little area right there, that looks like a being to me. It looks like it's moving its head and everything. And we know that there's something in the yard because there's this. I mean, we have this. We have the evidence of the creature behind the fence showing up using some kind of cloaking technology, the ability to basically zap out 66% of the pixels from the camera, from the image that's produced by the camera. But we see it enough that we can see its face, and that's the basically hard evidence of this video. I think that, along with the creature that scares him out of the yard in the middle, the movement that proves it. You could actually see, in addition, here's this is the 6 frames in a loop of the face behind the fence. There's no question about it. No question about it. No doubt. No doubt. Look at that. No doubt. No question about there's something there. Just like they drew, just like in the pictures that they drew. There's no doubt about it. Yep. So we have the evidence, and now there's additional evidence to go along with it. We have the evidence that shows that there was something hiding out right here. You can see this being right here, hiding out like in the middle Where that, if that being ever came out, is that the same as the insectoid type beings that we see appearing above the fence, and perhaps the one, because actually, if you watch the entire video of this, let me just play this one more time so people could see it. This is the being that's hiding, like, basically directly in front of them near the heavy equipment. You see it moved its head there a little bit. You can see its big eyes. Is that a gray? Is that something else? Is that one of these insectalins? Or insectoid type beings? But if you watch the whole video, after they go back in the yard and they look and they're inspecting it again, and they zoom in regarding the being back here. We'll pause it in a second here. They open up the gate. They're looking back. They're zooming back. You can see. Let me just pause it here for a second. This is the little window I'm talking about. Is that to me is one of the beings. It came out of there. I think that's the one that came out and scared them in the middle here. Potentially, I think I could be wrong. It looks like they can move really quickly. Angel did comment that they were running around really fast in the backyard. Well, let's just play this a little bit, because then they zoom in here a little bit, and then we're gonna show you something else here. You can see. Okay, look at. They lift it up. Now just pay attention to right here. Look at that. Look at that. There's something like there's this little window. Where's that light coming from? Is that light looks like it might be behind this wall? It's part of this heavy equipment in the background, and that light is maybe it's perhaps shining. We can't see where it's shining from, or maybe this is it up here. There seems like there's a little light up here. But anyway, regardless, you can see this figure in the middle, standing there, and it looks insect like. It looks like if you get it looks like it could be like a mantis kind of being. That's what it looks like. You can see it moving around in there. Actually, it's good. You can see it moving around in there a little bit. Look at that head. Looks at the triangular head. Look at, there's a good. I just paused it. Look at right here. There's the head. You see it? The triangular head, the thin body. You know, the tall, thin body with the triangular head, like a praying mantis. That's what we're looking at there, folks. That's the being I think that came out. They were looking at it before they went into the yard, and then when they got a couple of steps in, this thing came flying out because that light and everything disappears, and then something appears in this area right in front of them. Meanwhile, that light's not there for those few frames. You can't see it. There's also something going on down here somewhere. It looks like there might be something going on right here. This video, you got to take it one step at a time. There's a lot of different things going on in here. There looks like there might be something going on in here. Right here, it looks like there could be something. Right here, I don't know if it's the same being that we just saw earlier, but right there, this is a praying mantis. You can see the triangular head. I have the cursor right at the bottom of its head, and you go up along here. You can see one of its eyes right there. You go over there. There's a flat type of a head, and then it goes back in the there's another eye right there where they're pointing at. So you can see this thing. Look at it. I'll go take it step by step here. There's something in there. It looks like it moves around a little bit. I'll just press play. Very slightly. These things do not want to be, they don't want us to know that they're here. They don't want anyone to know that they're here. And again, this video needs to be looked at even closer than what I'm doing here today. I've been looking at this, and it's difficult. It's a difficult thing, but now that we know we have evidence, this is an important part. It's easier to say now that this stuff in the background, some of it anyway, is not pareidolia, like some people might say, or any kind of digital artifact. This is not some digital artifact. There's something there. It's not moving. It's there the whole time. It's moving a little bit, but it looks like one of these beings. So I think that's where that one being went. There's definitely something hiding in here, it looks like, because we saw that's where that face was from before that I was showing the close-up. And there's other things going on here too. There could be, for instance, I think there could be something here. It looks like there might be something here. It looks like this could be partial of a face. I'm not sure. Again, we're not going to be able to prove all of it, but I think it's safe to say that that's what they were looking at, something in the backyard. For sure, there's something here, and there's no question that there's something here. That close up of that little gray kind of face. There's no doubt about it. And then I've actually received messages from other people. Now, there was another person I received a message from who says that he thinks that there's things inside the camper. That might be true. I don't know. There might be something here, it looks like. If you look at this video closely, it looks like there could be a face in there the whole time looking out. This other person saying that looks like he thinks there's something in there. This video, people who are better at this kind of thing than people like me need to be looking at this. Now, Scott Roeder, I have been in communication with him, and when he has more time, he is going to do some more analysis on this. And actually, he did do some analysis. I'm going to share that with you guys in a second here. Yeah, Scott Roeder shared this video with me. It shows he put an outline around the being in the middle, so people can get a better idea where it's at here. Yeah, you see it moving. Yeah, that was the first video he sent me. Then he sent me another more complete version, and I'll share that in 1 second. So you can see, we're trying to show people where this being is, and of course, in Scott's analysis, you don't see that window in the back anymore, because I don't think that being was standing in that window in the back, and there was somehow it was lighted, and that light went with it, or it turned it off, and then came running up here and scared them out of the yard. And here's the second video that Scott shared with me. You can see this. He provided some computer. He put lines around the being so you could see exactly how they were coming in and out of the screen. Very interesting. Very good work, I must say. This kind of stuff takes a lot of time to do, folks. Very good stuff. So there you have it. So now there's additional evidence on top of the evidence that we already have, and I suspect there'll be more discoveries as time goes on with regard to this video. So we have the evidence, and now we know the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, and there's nothing that could be done at this point. The information is out there. There's a lot of people who know about it now, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. I mean, people could cry about it. They could pretend that it's not real, and that's fine. I mean, if you want to do that, I mean, in a way, I don't blame you. In fact, I think as far as I'm concerned, when I look at Twitter now or Reddit, and I see what debunker statements, to me, it's like I'm reading something written by like a person who believes the Earth is flat. I really see that now. I don't even see any point in talking about these people anymore. Actually. And then the other thing is I know that there's been some people in the UFO community who haven't accepted this and still offer alternate explanations for it. I don't know what their motives are, or what they're up to. I don't know, but I don't care. And as far as I'm concerned, they're unimportant anymore. If they want to play that game, as far as I'm concerned, they're unimportant, and they're in it for themselves or something. I don't know what to say about it. But I just want to point out that so now that we see it, they're here. Obviously, these beings are insectoid, or as David Jacobs calls them, insectalins. They're the ones in charge, according to Jacobs. And we're going to get into some of the things that he's talked about. But before we do, I just want to point out that in this book here, the Allagash abductions, this is, there's in 1976, there was 4 young men, 4 friends, Jim and Jack Weiner. They were twin brothers, along with Chuck Rack and Charlie Foltz. They went camping and on an adventure, basically, in the Maine wilderness, in the Allagash wilderness in Maine, for a few days to have fun. And of course, as we all know, they were abducted in the middle of the night, while they were out on a canoe trying to night fish. They lost some time, and it was over 10 years later when they all decided to seek out help, because they had issues with this. There were issues with this. Jim Weiner was having dreams, and that he sought out Raymond Fowler, who ended up writing this book talking about it. And they all pretty much remembered the same thing. They were brought on board some craft, and there was like creatures on there that looked like insects. And that's what we're seeing in this Vegas video. We now know that this stuff is true. Now we need to start taking this stuff seriously. I know a lot of us out there, a lot of people, not me. I always took it seriously because I have my own experiences, right? So I knew that there's something out there. But see, this means that these stories like this this gives that more credence now. For one thing, here was when Jim Weiner was under hypnosis, from page 54. He described them. He says they're like bugs. They got bug eyes. Their eyes aren't on the front of their heads. They're more temporally located. says here, Jim proceeded to describe the aliens in some detail. The eyes did not have pupils and did not blink. They were blackish brown in color. The faces were a light color with no nose. There was a trace of a mouth. There were just holes for ears. They all wore tight-fitting bluish-gray suits made of a shiny reflective material. Jim explained that it was hard to tell if their gloved fingers had 3 or 4 digits because 2 of the digits seemed connected together, forming one fatter digit. After obtaining a description of the... Well, we'll just stop right there. But there you go. So they were describing bugs. And also, they were told not to, they were given some sort of suggestion during this abduction to forget about it, and they did. It didn't start coming back to them till it was entering their dreams, and then later, under hypnosis, they recalled everything, and they all had all of them recalled the same things. And it was another interesting thing was that even later on, as they were working with Raymond Fowler, who is still around, by the way, he's an excellent UFO investigator. They actually, apparently, these beings knew that they were relaying information. And one of the weird things that happened to Jack Wiener was that he was starting to have dreams, regular dreams, and then somehow there would be these interlopers into the dream. An alien figure would show up inside the dream wearing a cloak saying, "Do not tell, do not tell, do not tell." These beings, for whatever reason, want to be really secretive. They don't want us to know. They don't want the human race to know that they're here and they're up to something. They don't want us to know that they're here and they're up to something. And this brings me next to the government. Now, this has to be you would think that this should be the biggest concern, especially at this point of the government. But I just don't know. I don't know if they know anything about this. I mean, that's a question I don't have the answer to. Now, if you go and you look at the famous Thomas Wilson, Eric Davis notes, of course, that was from that occurred in notes were taken by Dr. Eric Davis. He was interviewing United States Navy Admiral Thomas Wilson in 2002, October of 2002. And, of course, as we all know, a lot of us in the UFO community already know this story, that Wilson relayed the story of how he thought at the time he was the deputy director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he thought he should be read in on this UFO crash retrieval reverse engineering stuff, and he tried to do that. He learned some things, but then he was shot down. They wouldn't bring him in. They just would not bring him in, and if he tried to pursue it any further, they were going to demote him, and he was threatened, basically. Now, of course, Wilson later on, when these notes were made public 5-6 years ago now, 7 years ago, he denies this. He denied it. Now Davis, he didn't deny, he just wouldn't comment, basically. So these notes are real. I mean, they were real. There's no question about it. And one of the interesting things was when Wilson told Davis that he actually met with Gansler, Jack Gansler, who he served as the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics from November of 1997 until June 2001. And Eric Davis asked him, and he met with him in 98 to talk about this. And Davis asked him, what did he say? And Wilson responded, says, UFOs are real. So-called alien abductions are not real. So according to Thomas Wilson, in these Davis notes, this Gansler, who passed away in 2018, said that the UFOs are real, but alien abductions are not real. Now, Gansler, I can't believe this. I can't believe the government would not know about this. Based on, okay, we have all these people, I don't know, thousands of people. David Jacobs hypnotized well over 1,000 people. There was other people who did this kind of research, like the late Bud Hopkins and also the late John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist, had studied this. There's something to alien abduction. There's just too many people. A lot of the stories were very similar, and a lot of the stories were similar before a lot of the literature was printed about the experiences that a lot of these people have. There's no question about it, and they describe these little short grays, tall grays, sometimes these reptilian creatures, but the ones in charge were these insect type creatures that look like praying mantises. So I have to ask myself a question here, like, what's going on with the government? Either there's three possibilities that I come up with here. Either they're totally oblivious and they're just been handling this in a completely absolute reckless manner. I mean, maybe they, if that's the case, right, then that means that they just, love the idea of trying to reverse engineer the recovered craft, but they don't care and they don't even want to study what the potential reasons are for these beings being here. I can't imagine that being the case. I just can't. Another possibility is that this alien abduction aspects of this it's even more of a secret than the reverse engineering and crash retrieval programs. That there's even a smaller group within the gatekeeper or group that is looking at this and trying to come up with solutions for it. Because the solutions we are going to need if David Jacobs is correct about what they're up to. And then, of course, the third possibility I could have here is that I wrote out here is aliens are basically controlling the gatekeepers somehow, either by infiltration, that one of them might be there, one of these beings might be there, one of these hybrid beings. There are alien creations that look just like a human being. Maybe somehow they infiltrated this and they're controlling the narrative from the inside. And hey, alien abductions, there's nothing to it. We based on the research by a lot of people who investigated alien abductions. These beings have the ability to really control people. They have incredible neurological capacities that allow them to control us. So either somehow they might be controlling the gatekeepers. I don't want to believe that one. I don't want to believe that the government's totally oblivious to it and they're just reckless. I don't want to believe that. I just can't. So I have to go with number two, that it's probably even more secret than the reverse engineering aspects. Because they have to know about this. And we all know about it now, too. I mean, we've seen them now. We've seen them. We've seen them in the video, in the Vegas video. The evidence is there now. There's no doubt about it. And it's fine. Hey, if there's a portion of the UFO community that wants to pretend that it's not real, maybe that's okay. Maybe let them go believe what they want to believe. Let the debunkers and the skeptics, let them just go in their little corner, and the adults will talk about the reality of situation in other corners of the internet, like here. That's how we might have to handle this. But anyhow, now moving on to David Jacobs. Now, of course, he wrote the threat. This was published in 1998. I actually bought this right when it came out. This is first edition, I believe. I think it is. But anyway, that book was scary enough. And then 17 years later, in 2015, he published this one, which was even worse and even scarier, if this is true. And I have to you have to say this. I mean, he's a person who actually did the work for this. He researched it. So I mean, there's really no one else to turn to with this. I mean, I remember back in the late 90s, there was a documentary I saw where some scientist did an experiment where he locked some people away in isolation chambers and they had dreams of aliens. Well, that's an absurd kind of explanation to try to explain away the alien abduction phenomenon, because it just doesn't work. I mean, if you lock anyone up in an isolation chamber, they're going to see more than just aliens. They're going to see pink elephants. They're going to see hobbits, goblins. Who knows what they're going to see, right? So that doesn't explain it. And also that they a lot of these skeptics, they come from a position, well, they're just dreaming or a sleep paralysis. Well, a lot of abductions don't even take place in the middle of the night. Some of them do, but not all of them. Sometimes people are just driving down the highway and the next thing you know, they're missing time. It happens in broad daylight. It happens at a family picnic. All kinds of different places it happens. It's not just in the middle of the night. So it's really happening. And now we know that there's something here. We have the evidence that shows us that. I mean, we could say, okay, there it is. So obviously there must be something to it, right? Hopefully Jacobs is incorrect, but I don't know if he is. Anyway, but before I even get on to that, I just want to point out too, like when the government released the Arrow report, Whitley Strieber, of course, who's famous for Communion, among other books that he's written about the phenomenon, he was very upset. A lot of people out there were very upset, especially abductees, people who have had issues because of this their entire lives. And rightfully so. I mean, you have this bogus report coming out that Arrow released back in March, and Strieber was very upset. In fact, he wrote a letter about this on March 9th, 2024. And he says here, millions of people around the world are under many different kinds of pressure from an extremely strange and aggressive presence that appears to be connected with the unidentified flying objects that Arrow has once again lied about. I am one of those people, and let me summarize my story very simply and concretely. On December 26, 1985, I was kidnapped out of my home in the dead of the night and subjected to rape with an electrostimulator that induced an ejaculation. The ejaculate was harvested. I received a rectal injury from this attack that left me in pain for the next 20 years. I was also, I believe at least in part, by the application of methodical and sinister social engineering mastermind within the United States intelligence community, made into an international laughingstock. The phrase rectal probe was singled out in my book Communion and made into a comedy meme. My rape was turned into a joke. The result was that people stopped buying my books and I was humiliated beyond belief. My life was almost completely ruined. I had strong support in my wife, Ann Strieber, and we fought back together. She has passed on, but I am still here and still fighting, and I will also continue until the day I die. And he goes on to say that the greater issue is this: why have eggs and semen been extracted from so many people, and why aren't we being defended, or at least warned? Let's be clear. The Defense Department of the United States has declared itself. It is not defending the American people from this presence. Instead, with its lies, it is defending the presence. So our Department of Defense, which we pay for, does not answer to us. It answers to these rapists. Now, that's a strong, very strong allegation there that he's making against the government for not addressing this. And you have to somewhat agree with them on here. I mean, if this is what's happening, and this is what apparently is happening, then how come we're not at least being warned about it? Are there any things that people can do to help prevent this from happening? If that's what's been going on all these years. But at this point, after reading these books from Jacobs, it might already be too late. According to him, when you read this book here, Walking Among Us, I mean, it's unbelievably horrifying. I mean, if this is true, because that means right now, okay, this abduction phenomena, the reason for it, according to Jacobs, is because these beings, all these years, they've been, abducting people, taking semen from men, eggs from women, mixing them with alien DNA, and just they keep making these hybrids over and over again. And now they've reached the stage now. This book here came out 9 years ago, right? So it's even further along now. I mean. So right now, according to Jacobs, there's these beings living among us right now that look like human beings, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And they're living among us to what end? According to him, at some point, these praying mantises are going to take over. They're basically trying to absorb humanity. They're basically getting rid of us through this hybridization program. And anyway, he does have it listed in this book. He has what he calls the alien spectrum, and it has all the different beings that are involved in the abduction phenomenon. And of course, the top of the chain here is the insectalins. They're the ones who oversee the abduction operation. They're the ones in command, and they have very strong neural engagement, stronger than any of the other aliens that that abductees experience. So the insectalins are on top of the food chain. And then there's the small grays and the tall grays. According to Jacobs, he's come to the determination that these are actually hybrids themselves. These were made from human and alien DNA just to serve as workers. Like the small grays do the menial work, like they abduct the humans and take them on board, stuff like that. They also have strong neural engagement, but they're not as good as the insectalins. And then there's the tall grays, and they seem to have they perform the more complex procedures on board the craft when an abductee is brought on there. Like they remove the eggs and the sperm. They do all the sperm. They do the egg and sperm harvesting, embryo implantation, and fetal extraction. They leave the fetuses grow inside of a female, these hybrids, for a few weeks, and then the aliens abduct the females again to remove the fetuses, and then they take care of the rest of the process. And then after that, there's also reptilians. Jacobs thinks that these reptilians might be from a planet that the insectalins already conquered. They could be a crossbreed between insectalins and the reptiles that they conquered. Like, so they actually already have practice doing this on other worlds. Apparently, Jacobs has come to believe. How crazy is that? And then there's all different kinds of early stage, middle stage, and late stage hybrids. And the early stages hybrids, they're used as caretakers for hybrid babies and toddlers. The middle stage ones are caretakers for toddlers and older children, and they also perform some of the procedures on humans. And then the late stage ones, they actually leave the UFO sometimes and bring abductees on board. They also perform some of the medical procedures. You have to see this book. I mean, this is where all of us need to be. We need to be doing this kind of research now. We need to be reading books like this at this point. The scientific community, if they weren't on board before, now they need to get on board. And then the next level up is these humanoid hybrids. They're really advanced. They're more advanced than the late stage hybrids, and these are used as for security. They're like enforcers, according to Jacobs. They protect the hybrids who are living on Earth and make sure there are no security breaches. They ensure the abductees' secrecy. Very scary. I think that these might be who the Men in Black are. These humanoid hybrids. Maybe that's who they are. And then finally, it's what he calls hybrids. They're human in every way except in their specific neural functions. They're living on Earth right now, and they're seamlessly blending into society. Sometimes they live together in twos or threes. This book is amazing because there's all these different abductees. I mean, first they start off their lives getting abducted, and then some of them they find themselves, they're not just getting abducted and getting brought on board alien craft. They're actually getting abducted, brought on, and then later on, these enforcer aliens force these abductees to teach these hybrids how to live in our society. They teach them how to drive cars, how to set up furniture in a house, how to cook food, what food to eat, don't leave meat out of a refrigerator. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's scary. And they're already here. And they're taking over at some point. And there were some other points that Jacobs talks about too that are very concerning. And this was like in his conclusions later on in the book. He writes here, he says, abduction evidence points to a single goal, global integration resulting in takeover. It does not point to other goals. It is a process happening now. And if I have discovered hybrids in my corner of eastern Pennsylvania and in a few other places, it means that it is happening everywhere. Obviously, there are many unanswered questions, but I will venture to speculate about the aliens program and its implications for the galaxy in general. And then later on, he writes, a few pages later, he talks about why they're probably here. He talks about planetary acquisition. It says, he writes here, if the aliens want the Earth, humans are an obstacle. Taking over a planet without intelligent life would be much easier than taking over one with an intelligent, technologically adept population that could have the means to resist the invasion. If a technological civilization exists on a targeted planet, in this case Earth, the aliens have several major choices. They can destroy the civilization, they can convince humans that takeover is in their best interests and therefore have a smooth transition, or they can take over the planet and the civilization without the people's knowledge and maintain an intact alien-controlled global society for future purposes. The first option was not chosen. The second option has not been offered. The third option appears to be operative. So that's what it seems like they're doing. So they're taking it over that way. They're basically, that's through this program that's ongoing, this abduction program, and there's beings living among us right now, for as crazy as it sounds. I don't want that to be true, but again, this is the only guy who really studied this. Nobody else is out there studying this. And how do we stop it? He doesn't have any answers. It's hard. How would we stop? How would anybody prevent this from happening? If that race of beings is so technologically advanced that we have no chance against them, how do we stop it? I don't know, but maybe that's why it's important that all of us are talking about this. Maybe everybody does need to know about this and start thinking about this. Because, I mean, we're just going to sit back and take it? And then you have to wonder about a lot of other things here, okay? It does make sense. I mean, in a way, you could look at a lot of the major events over the years with UFOs and alien contact. For instance, the Ariel school incident. Okay, over 60 kids during a recess in the morning at this Ariel school in Ruwa, Zimbabwe. All the teachers are in the school having a conference. All the kids are out in the playground playing around in the back of the school. All of a sudden, a flying saucer comes down. Alien beings exit the flying saucer. One of the alien beings communicates telepathically with a handful of these kids, and they put in images of destruction inside their minds. They're telling them basically, "Hey, if you get too technologed," one of the little kids said, "then this is what you're looking at here." Maybe the message here was, if you want to try to fight back against us, if you're going to try to do anything about us being here, this is what you could expect. Maybe that's what the message is. I don't know. Something to think about, right? And then you hear there's a lot of other cases out there too where people run across a landed UFO, right? And they'll see alien beings that'll be taking soil samples or vegetation, plant life, and bringing it into the craft. And if the person, sometimes some of these people get paralyzed if the aliens see them or find that they're watching them. It seems like the aliens are studying the planet not for, maybe that's what's happening. They're not studying it because they're interested. They're just studying it for themselves because they're taking over. They're coming here and they're going to get rid of us at some point. That's what this could be about. It's very scary. And, at the same time here, the mainstream doesn't seem like it wants to talk about this. And I think we need to talk about it now. Now that we have the evidence right in front of our faces here, right? We know they're here. These are the same kinds of beings that all these people have been talking about over the years. All these abductees. The abductees from the Allagash incident. They're insect-like. They look like bugs. That's what these things looks like that we see running around that backyard. We know they're here. And if David Jacobs, he's one who studied this more than any of us, right? He would know. This is the conclusions that he's reaching, that they're here. They're actually, that their program is working. There's these beings living among us right now. And there's this book, like I said, this is something that this Walking Among Us by David Jacobs, this is something that people in the UFO community, if you haven't read this, you really need to. And not only that, but the entire scientific community. And then we need to figure out a game plan. And you got to hope that the governments of the world secretly have been trying to figure out a game plan. It might even be too late. I mean, again, this book came out 9 years ago. That was research that took him years to do, and then he publishes the book finally. It takes time to write a book, right? And so all these years just keep going by. The alien presence is probably much greater now than it ever was before. I mean, do we even have a chance now to do anything about it? I don't know what we could do. Is there anything to prevent them, to stop them from doing this? Or is it too late? I don't know. If it's true, I don't want to believe it, but we have to look at it now. They're here, so you have all these people abducted, saying that they're little grays, tall grays, sometimes these reptilians, but the ones in charge are these insect ones, these tall praying mantis kind of beings. That's what was running around in that backyard that we saw in the video, right? So now we know it's real. So does that mean? I guess the rest of the world needs to stop and think. Okay, if we see it now, they're here. That means that could be real, that they are trying to take over the world in this clandestine fashion. They don't want us to know that they're here. And you obviously see how hard they were really trying to make sure that they weren't filmed in that video. You could see they were standing still. They were they're using some kind of cloaking technology. They were doing all kinds of things to make sure we didn't see them. Something went wrong for them that night. That's what happened. Obviously, something went wrong with whatever they were in, and they came down and they landed in that yard. They got out of there before the police arrived, apparently, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were invisible completely by that point. Who knows? But they something went wrong, and they know it. And now you have what's going on there. Now you have these people saying that there's this poltergeist activity, upside down crosses and stuff. Are they trying to trick us? That's what it seems like that might be happening here, to make us believe that that's not what happened, that it's not aliens. Don't believe in that. It could be supernatural. It could be something from hell. And this way it takes us off the scent, like I was talking about the other day. But, the mainstream doesn't want to talk about this. Last year, there's that one program on the History Channel, The Proof is Out There. I like watching that show. It's an enjoyable show. They talk about UFOs a lot. And but they did one last year about the Turkey UFOs, and they came to the conclusion at the end, they believed that they were UFOs, that they think that was definitely UFOs, but they wouldn't agree to their expert that they brought on, this Mark D'Antonio, an astronomer and video effects designer. He didn't think, like, he doesn't think that there was any way that this fisherman from Turkey was able to film beings in the craft from that distance. He compared it to us trying to film someone's face inside of a moving 747, right? Which is an absolutely absurd thing to say. I mean, see, this is the proof is out there. It's on the History Channel. There's a lot of people are going to see that, right? They're not going to say that they think those are aliens, but they are. There are aliens that you see in that video. For one thing, it wasn't a moving plane. It was a craft that was hovering in one spot for hours on different nights over the course of 2007, 2008, and 2009. There were actually experts from 4 different countries that investigated this, and they all came to the same conclusion that there's something anomalous going on there, and it wasn't a hoax. And there was an analysis done by a Chilean investigator. This was Mario Valdez Santiago. He has a blog spot here, and I talked about this before, but I want to pull it up again because he was talking about this. He said that these experts from 3 different countries, from Japan, Turkey, and Russia, all looked at it. And then he looked at it. So that was Japan, Russia, Turkey, and Chile. There was experts from 4 different countries. They all came to the same conclusion. He actually wrote here in his blog spot that so far nobody has been able to demonstrate that the recordings are a product of tricks or some type of manipulation. Therefore, the debate has concentrated more on the nature and origin of the objects filmed by Yalcin Yalman. Yes, Yalcin Yalman was the person who filmed it. He basically, it says here, just a quick summary that he writes. He says, this case developed in the location of Comburgus between the years 2007, 2008, and 2009. Its main witness was a night guard named Yalcin Yalman, who, while on duty, registered video of strange objects that appeared at sunrise, like floating or changing while in flight over the sea on the coast of Marmara. Yalman was able to film many video segments, some during the day, accompanied by witnesses with whom he spoke to while he was filming. And he also filmed a lot of them by night, by the way. And this guy here went into it. Mario Valdez Santiago, he went in there thinking he was going to be able to disprove this, and he couldn't. He couldn't do it. He looked at the video of this, and there were moments when, like, sometimes when Yalman was filming this stuff, he was filming it from a distance with a camera that had a very powerful zoom lens on it, and there's these craft hovering out over the sea of Marmara, off the coast, of Turkey, and sometimes there's a hatch open on the top, and you can see beings inside moving around. And I'll leave the link for this. I mean, it's a very long piece, but it's fascinating, and he has all kinds of pictures on here of the beings that you can see what they look like. I mean, they are beings. They're not human beings. There were some people who thought, well, this is just an illusion. It's really a ship, and it's really up in the sea. Well, okay, if it's an illusion, why do the beings on there look like aliens and not people? Because they're not people. That's why. I mean, look at some of these pictures I'm rolling up on the screen here. He has that were extracted from these videos that he used for his analysis here. You can see here, like, for instance, you could see this is an alien head here. You can see an eye, mouth, the big head. Look at it. It's pretty clear. The moon was shining in a lot of these, some of these videos. I'm not sure exactly how many, but I know, like in this one here, the moon was out that night, and that looks like shining on top of this thing's head. You can see there's the eyes. I mean, you're seeing it with your own eyes, but yet we're denying this. I thought that this should serve as the absolute end-all evidence, but it didn't. And then there was a series of images here that are really fascinating, where it looks like there are 2 grays along with the praying mantis that are working. It looks like a potential abductee that's in the prone position, laying down. Here's the insectoid, or the praying mantis being, and behind it is 2 probably tall grays, I'm assuming. And there's right here, this figure you see laying there is a person in the prone position. And is that a human being? Or did he actually capture an abduction in the progress? Is that what's going on here? And he draws pictures here. He tries to pencil in the pictures so you can see what he's seeing. Like if you look at this image here on the top, you can see looks like this praying mantis being is looking straight out at the camera. And then he tried to draw it here so you can see what he's seeing. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And then there's one here where it looks like the praying mantis is leaning in toward whoever this is laying down, and it's almost like a profile. So he has the drawing there, so you can see what he's seeing. And you look at these pictures closely, that's what we're seeing. So it's amazing, but I don't see. I mean, here's another one. Look at this. Okay, you can see what he was saying here. Like he's pointing out this creature here, and there's the two behind him. They're probably the Greys, and this is the one that's in charge, the insectalin, as David Jacobs likes to call him. And then he draws over it so you can see what he's talking about. You see, that's what you're seeing. Now, again, I think that the Vegas images are even better than this, but this actually gives us more. We're actually seeing some. I think what we're seeing here, you go through this, I think they actually captured not only alien beings in a craft, but obviously it looks like they could be. They could have actually captured an abduction, an ongoing abduction scenario here. Yeah, here's where he shows like what he's seeing here. Like there's someone's laying down, and there's two gray beings standing above him with the big heads and the big eyes. And like Jacob says, he thinks that the Greys are actually just like biological robots, just like Gary Nolan was talking about. Yeah, I think that's what's going on here. And then some people say, well, the beings aren't moving, they're stationary. Well, here he actually caught the movement of them moving around a little bit. Another thing he said, too, was that he thought that they were moving at an incredible speed sometimes, which I thought was interesting. He thought that they were moving very fast, like in a different kind of fashion than a human being would move. And this was probably, I've talked about this series of images before. Here's the actual picture, and then he traced over it, and you can see what it looks like, and then he took the tracing and put it over the original picture. But yeah, basically you're seeing this is a person laying down. There's a praying mantis standing on one side of him, and on the other side are two gray beings. So this is what he's seeing. This is the completed, with the drawing overlapped onto the original picture, and this is unbelievable stuff. But yet, a channel like or a show like The Proof Is Out There that you'll see on the History Channel, they're not going to. They'll say, yeah, we believe there's UFOs, but they're not going to have any of their experts come on and say anything like, well, and we think they're aliens too. No, they're not going to do that. They're just not going to do that. And I would suspect that they wouldn't do that for the Vegas alien case either. They'll come up with some stupid thing to say about it if they look at it. If they look at Scott Roeder's evidence at some point in the future, that could, because it's mainstream, the mainstream is not going to want to admit to this. They'll take their cues from the Pentagon on this, and meanwhile, the rest of us could sit in the background and try to start figuring this out for ourselves, because obviously there are some people within the UFO community right now who don't want to acknowledge this evidence that has been presented last month. They don't want to. And I don't know. Again, is it ego? Could be that there could be something like that. It could be, well, they're afraid. Lou Elizondo talked about there's a fear of how is the phenomenon going to react when disclosure happens. Well, disclosure has happened. It's just that no one's accepting. Not everyone's accepting it yet. Disclosure has happened. The government didn't provide it. It was the Scott Roeder's analysis that provided it. So I don't know if the phenomenon is going to react. I don't know. I don't think that should be a concern. I think we need to be. We shouldn't care. We should be worried about what's going on with people who have been getting abducted all the years. We should be concerned about, is there anything we could do to stop this in its tracks before it's really too late, or is it already too late? I don't know. But it's something that we need to start talking about. And they're here, and there's I'm sure, for all I know, right, there could be some of these beings out there. If this is all true, if Jacobs is right, then there's these Huberts running around out there. They could be aware of what's going on right now. They could be aware that people like me are talking about this, right, and bringing it to the public, because this is not what they want. They don't want their secret exposed. They don't want this out in the public, but it is now. It's too late. It's just a matter of, okay, they're sitting back. Is it possible right now that they're sitting back and looking at this and wondering, let's see if everyone buys it, or if they'll, maybe they won't. Maybe we're okay. Maybe it's just this guy. They'll just think he's a nut or something like that. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're just waiting and see. Right now. They're just just hanging back and waiting to see how this thing all pans out. So in a way, it actually might be good that some people in the UFO community poo-poo this. In a way, it might be good that the mainstream media, stays away from it. Now, News Nation did talk about it, recently, and that was good, I thought. But I don't know how much more they're going to talk about it. How much more are any of the major publications, like the major newspapers, like the New York Times or Washington Post, are they going to talk about it? Probably not. They'll take their marching orders from the Pentagon. It's up to the establishment. It's what the establishment wants. I mean, if they want, they could just knock my podcast down, because I'm telling the truth right now. I'm showing the world the truth right now. There is something here for sure, and we need to start thinking about the implications of it. Is it like what David Jacobs has stated? Because now we know they're here. Again, we know they're here, despite what anybody else says. And, again, it could be a good thing. Just keep it the way it is. Let everyone, do their thing. But let the big people, the adults, try to figure this out in dark pockets of the internet. That's maybe the way to handle this. I don't know. At the same time, I really believe the entire scientific community, the entire world should wake up to this. It's almost like an invasion of the body snatchers. If that's what, if Jacobs is right, that's what's going on here. We're getting taken over. Right. And at some point, he believes that once they have amassed enough beings, right, that they're going to take us over, and who knows what they're going to do with the remaining people, right? Are they going to herd us on board crafts to serve man and eat us? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. There's a lot of questions I have. That's why we need more people involved, more people thinking about this. Or not, or maybe we just sit back and just let it happen, right? Just let it go, right? There's nothing we can do about it, because I did talk about that before. We can't do anything about there are aliens here. There's nothing we can really do about it. But if some of them are trying to take over, right, trying to knock and boot us out of here, I think we need to all know about it, and we all need to try to stop it. I'd rather know and try to stop it, if that's the case. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.